Well, if we're going to find out about Congaree, there's only one man we can really talk to. We said that Elk is one of the ambassadors there, but we're going one better, Elk. I'm sorry. We're joined by Bruce Davidson, who's the director of golf up at Congaree Golf Club. And Bruce, a fellow Scotsman, we're definitely outnumbering the Aussie today.
Yes, we are. We are. Thanks for having me on.
You'll be excited for this week. Big week for you guys.
Oh, it's terrific. I mean, we were excited enough with the Palmetto Championship last year, and then I thought we'd sort of close that book for a while. And then when we were asked to do the event in springtime, obviously we were excited to do it. And when CJ Corporation decided that this was the course they wanted to host it, we've been working hard since then. So we had a little bit longer than 72 days this time around, but not much.
Well, we were both up at, obviously he's been to the club a lot and I was at the Palmetto, and it would have been such a waste if the course wasn't used for another PGA Tour event. And, you know, obviously this one being the biggest of the fall season, you've got a tremendous field playing this week. You know, it would have been terrible for you guys not to be back hosting an event.
Well, I'm glad you think so. I'm glad the PGA Tour thought so also. When we built and designed this golf course with Tom Fazio, we always said, Mr. Freakin said he wanted to have host a major championship one day. Mm-hmm. So hopefully we're getting closer to that goal. But this is indeed an elite field. It's a big tournament. And I was just out watching the guys today. So, I mean, anytime you can go and jump around and be so close to Rory McIlroy, that you can hear him say 7 or 6, or Tommy Fleetwood's right there, and Harry English and Matsuyama just said hello to him. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's a golf fan's dream this week, because our property is designed, as you know, to walk, and you can get very, very close to them the way the course lays out. I don't think there's another property like it.
Yeah, well, Elk, we know you're a big fan.
Well, yeah, the course, we talked about it this morning already, Bruce. The course is long on yardage, like 75 or 600, but it doesn't play that long because, as you say, it's built, you know, so firm and fast. And I was speaking this morning about how difficult this golf course is. You have to be so precise. I mean, I'm using the Craig Parry model this week, Bruce, which is, he always played super good down in Royal Melbourne, and he had this sort of bowling ball sort of action where he would just keep it in play, knows how to play the angles on these courses in the sand belt. This course of Congaree is very similar to that. Fazio did it exactly the same way. Disaster everywhere around the greens, Bruce. What is it going to take for these guys to control this? I feel like the long hitters do not have the advantage this week at Congaree because it's so firm and the ball will run away from them and go into trouble.
All good points, Steve. They've been discussed. We've talked with the PGA Tour, obviously, on the setup. I believe we're playing it at 7,500, which is, I think, a little bit longer than last time. Mm-hmm. When they came here last June, technically we're closed in June because it's so hot and muggy, and we're not a summer club. And they got 11 under early because someone shot 8 under on the first day. And we were all a bit concerned that a really low score would win because the course didn't play like she normally does. But it firmed up at the weekend, and 11 under ended up winning. I actually don't think, and of course, you can't legislate against Rory and these guys. They're so good, as you know. I don't think double digits. I don't think they get to double digits this time around. Mm-hmm. The fairways were stimping this morning nearly at 9. The fairways were stimping at 9. And the PGA Tour are desperate for us to try and slow the greens down a little bit, truth to be told. In fact, funny story, one of the guys stopped the mechanic, because as you know, the mechanic is the one who takes the more heights down. And he said to the mechanic, what heights are you guys cutting the greens at? And he says, no habla. And he speaks perfect English. So, I mean...
so good.
I think the players have enjoyed them. The players that I've talked to so far, I mean, the best players in the world are here. And you have to test the best players in the world. And it's not a course where you're going to miss an iron or a hybrid or anything else you're going with and expect it to hold the green. It's just not going to. There's still a little moisture in the green. So I went out today and watched some guys play, and there were pitch marks, which we don't see here often. But when that cold snap comes in tomorrow, I'll bet you it's hard to hold the greens, even for some of these guys. And, they've all been effusive. I always felt, Steve, that the best players like the course harder because it separates their skill sets even more from the rest of the field. So I see a Rory or a Scheffler or a Spieth or a Rahm or a Fleetwood or one of those guys that can play the angles, because you can't just hit it in the middle of the fairway. Sometimes that's not good enough. If it pins on the left, for example, on number one, you want to be kind of short right so you have a chance to stop it on the green. So obviously different if it's right or left. It's a second shot golf course, and you've got to have your best short game to get around here.
Yeah, I'm really keen to see the course. As I said on the show this morning, I took a bunch of guys up there and played it. They had so much trouble around the greens for this. As you say, you don't have any rough at Congaree at all. It's just basically two cuts, right? It's the fairway and the greens and tees. That's it. What is it like, Bruce, to set up a course for the tour? What do they ask you to do, and what's it been like for your staff? A lot of people don't have any idea what it's like to I know how hectic it is, but why don't you tell us?
Well, it's slightly different. We just reopened after the summertime. So what it put pressure on us, two things. We redesigned the 14th hole. It was Mr. Friedkin's idea, actually, and it's turned out beautifully, the par 3. So whereas the tee was on the left, we took the tee and moved it down into the marsh. So it sort of plays more straight on, and that tree's in the way now. The yardage is maybe reduced from 263 to 252 from the tip, something like that. Don't know if they're going to play that tee. But we really didn't have to do anything else other than make sure that our agronomic program was adhered to, because every summer we rip the grass up, take it right down to the nub and sand it and verticut it and sand it and phrase mow it and sand it and throw more sand on it. To whereas when we start off the season, there's no grain because it'll always grow toward the setting sun. And when you have a grass with that tight weave that Tifgrand has, if you're not careful with it, if you overwater it, which I've seen at other places, then grain. And if you miss the grain, you're chipping into the grain. It's a nightmare. We don't like that. So we were blessed with basically the 3 months that we were closed anyway. We did all of that, and it's turned out I've never seen a golf course, and I know I'm paid by the owner, but I have never seen a golf course, not Augusta National, not Pine Valley, not anywhere, not Seminole, with all respect to those great hallowed places. These guys have never seen grass in this condition, and that's what they're all saying. It's amazing. The superintendent does an amazing job.
And that's coming from a Scotsman as well. We love it.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, it has one of the great atmospheres, Congaree does. It's surrounded by old, beautiful ancient oak trees and beautiful architecture down in there. Can you tell us, Bruce, what was the original property at Congaree when that gives it all that quaintness? If you're lucky enough to ever go to Congaree, it's like going back into a Sidney Sheldon novel or something, walking around the grounds there.
Well, it's 1770 was when the land was given to the first owner by King George III of England. So it was a plantation back in the day, and then it was a hunting estate. Still is. We still do quail hunting, and the previous owners just logged pines and hunted quail. And so everything that was here, we maintained all the buildings, as you said, beautiful old buildings. Remodeled the main house, and then we added cabins and a clubhouse and everything else that you need to a club, but in the style that they look like they've been here as long as the other ones. So it's a very sort of southern charm. Buildings are great. We have 42 beds for ambassadors and their guests when they come in, and it's a kind of a small functional clubhouse. It's not a big fancy deal. Because it's all about the golf course. And it's the guys come in, hunt quail, play golf, and leave, and they love it.
And the oak trees on the property as well. When I was there last year for the Palmetto, a lot of the oak trees had been moved, hadn't they? It was, someone had told me a story about it, and we were all like gobsmacked at how they had managed to move these enormous oak trees.
Well, actually, the one company that you want to do it is a company in Houston, and they did the one on 18 at Pebble Beach too. And they're expert at it, and it's amazing to watch. It's almost a TV show in itself. But when we felled all the poor pines, and we really just were very careful felling trees, we didn't want to damage any live oaks. we kept coming across in the forest these unbelievably beautiful live oaks, some of which were, I think we moved one that was nearly 200 years old. And unfortunately, that's the only one we lost. It was a huge tree on 8, and that's the only one that we lost of the 85 that we moved. So what we did is we put the buildings in where we wanted them, and then we moved the trees. And when we built the golf course, we put the trees where we thought they would have most impression on the way the golf hole was played. So 85 live oaks were moved, yes.
That is incredible. Let's talk about the mission of the club, because you guys, you have 2 members, and those are the 2 founders of the club, and then you have these ambassadors. So it's a private club, but it's not like someone can come in and pay to join and become a member, because it's so much more than that. Tell us about the kind of mission behind Congaree.
Well, it was Mr. Freakin's vision shared by the late Bob McNair. So now we only have 1 member, unfortunately, because of course Mr. McNair passed away in 2018. But our ambassadors are invited on an annual basis. I think everybody in the golf world knows that committees of 1 tend to work better than multi-person committees. We have 1 owner, and what Mr. Freakin says goes, and that's the best way to run a club. As Jackie Burke would attest, I think, Alk. And so what we do is no initiation fee here, just paid dues, but the ambassadors are encouraged to make a donation to Congaree Foundation, which is 501c3. It's run in Houston. We now have a nice young man called Ben Grandy, who's taken over as executive director of that foundation. I stepped down after 7 or 8 years de facto doing it. And, between the ambassadors and everybody else, we've raised a lot of money for our charity. And we have many signature programs, one of which, Global Golf Initiative. I think Steve and I might have been Congaree kids, because, we both came from working class backgrounds. Mm-hmm. We both got to this country because, he was superb with golf. I was decent. And we were both educated because of our ability to play sport. And there are kids all around the world who might want to go to college in America, but they don't have a clue how to do it. Don't know how to get in, don't know how to pay for it. They've maybe never had anybody in their family go to college before. So we unearth these kids, all of our ambassadors, all of our professional ambassadors like Alk, the International Golf Federation countries, every first tee chapter in America, they all get to nominate a kid. So we put 500 nomination letters out a year, and we normally get about 100, and then we sift through. And last year we had 36, and this year coming up, we're going to have 48 kids come in for that preparatory week, 2 weeks in America at Congaree, and then we're doing it at Archerfield Golf Links now in Scotland. So the Europeans and the Africans and whoever else don't have to travel so far. That's our signature program. So 148 Congaree kids so far. Some of them have graduated, and most of them have listened to us. And most of the graduates, half of them went back to do their masters, because we key on academics. We know that they all want to play the tour, but we also know that 99% of people who want to play the tour end up like guys like me and not Steve Elkington. 1% of NCAA Division I golfers go on to play the tour. I always say I wanted to be savvy. I just wasn't good enough. I didn't turn pro to be me. But, or your brother, for example, there aren't many make it. So we harp on about how important an education is. And so far it's working, because most of our kids are graduating with degrees, and it'll be full circle when one day one of them becomes an ambassador. That's what we know. I think that we've done right.
Well, you've always been doing things for junior golf, Bruce. I mean, you and I were together in college. You were at River Oaks under the great Dick Harmon. Now you're on a new initiative. But all those years when we used to go over and visit you in Scotland with Tom Weiskopf, I remember, he and I flew up to do exhibitions for you guys with your juniors. You flew juniors to champions for all those years. I was involved in a lot of your stuff, and it's great. And now you've got your own course to host all this, and that's even better. And now you got all the best players. Interestingly, you kept naming Rory and Lowry and Fleetwood. These are all foreigners. I mean, where's the Aussies, mate? I mean, Jason Day's there, mate. Diane had one of the pick. Cam Davis is there, mate. Yeah.
Yes.
Mate, come on, mate.
Well, I watched Jason Dave. He came early. He was one of the first here. Him and Spieth were early here. And I watched Jason Day, and I'll tell you what, he's putting very, very well. I watched him play 5 or 6 holes.
Not that you're a gambling guy, but he's 200 to 1. Diane and I, of course, have a handicap show, but Jason Day may be the greatest 200 to 1 shot in the world today. He's my dark horse this week, and he's going to click right in on how to play these sort of sandbelt courses. What do you actually think about the chances of someone who you've already mentioned a few players, but are you in our boat thinking that it's going to be all precision and not necessarily length?
You can't get around here if you're long enough, but all these guys are long. So, I mean, if you had no disrespect to our friend, if Corey Pavin type player was in the field this week, he hadn't got a chance, because some of the fairways you've got to drive at 270 to get to the fairway. So, no, I think you do have to be able to hit it up in the air, though. Some of the pins, I think Justin Thomas is a good bet.
Hey, that's my guy.
He can hit it up in the air, and he's got lovely soft hands with his wedges. Mm-hmm. They're going to have to control their distance with their wedges. Good short game. I don't think you win here unless you're a good bunker player. I mean, Alki, I know you liked our sand. We were painstakingly anal about our sand. We hybrided it, and we hit thousands of bunker shots, John and I, until we got a sand of the consistency that we have. And, Billy Horschel said to me last night, I love the bunker sand. He said, I plugged a wedge on 18. He said, but you should plug a wedge if you miss the green. And that was our principle. Jackie Burke always told me a bunker's a hazard. It's not supposed to be easy. But the way the sand is here, you have to be able to spin the ball to a tight pin. Jason Day's bunker play is unbelievable. So is Jordan Spieth. So is Scotty Scheffler. But here's a guy I think will be a dark horse, Shane Lowry.
I was about to say, when you're talking about short game and bunker,
you have to know the criteria. You've got to be a dark horse, Bruce. You've got to be 100 to 1. Lowry's about 15 to 1, mate. Come on.
Well, I still think he's a good bet because he can flight it down, as we all know. And he can do your Craig Parry bowling ball. He keeps it in play and he flights it down. And he's got beautiful soft hands around the greens.
My player to watch, Bruce, is a guy that's built in the sort of the Craig Parry model, which is a lefty, Brian Harman, who hits it so straight and is a great short game player, very tenacious. What do you think of a guy, middle range striker like a Brian Harman, who's just really in position all day?
Well, his name came up today. I think Brian Harmer's played here a few times, not only in the tournament. I don't know if he did play the tournament last time, actually, but he's played here a few times because he's a Georgia boy, and he's been here a few times. I think Brian Harmer's a very good bet.
He loves the course.
My other guy finished runner-up at the Palmetto, Tyrrell Hatton, talking about the kind of obviously very creative with a short game, and the course has that kind of links feel to it as well, so it really suits his game.
Yeah, the volcano.
Yeah, that's what I was.
You said it the same as me. He's got a little bit of an issue if the patience runs out around there. And again, there's going to be a British type feel to the weather. Highs in the 60s, lows in the low 40s. Those guys are used to playing in that, when it gets cold and miserable.
And what we saw at the Palmetto was, drama on Sunday, because we had Chesson Hadley, Harris English. He's another one of my picks for this week. I think he's got some unfinished business after he kind of derailed on Sunday and shot 74. And then Garrett Kegel, who went on to win, actually led in driving distance for the week. And he was up there like top 3 greens and reg and tee to greens. So I thought that was a very interesting model to look at as well.
Yeah, Harris is here. I watched him play. Played with Rory today in the practice round and Gary Woodland. Harris is swinging beautifully. I mean, who doesn't like the way? And Harris is a great pitcher. If you watch Harris pitch, he's got soft hands, lovely rhythm, great bunker player. He could be a good pick as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and he knows the course well.
Played here a lot.
Yeah. Okay, good. Oh, I'm feeling good now.
Feeling good? Okay, all right.
Oh, we haven't talked about your Elks tipping John Ram to do it. That's his outright fave.
Well, my outright favourite, Bruce Rahm, of course, just won his third Spanish Open title. He played in Spain on a very narrow course. Of course, John Rahm, even though he's a long hitter, he's a control player, plays left to right. And I just think he's been under a lot of pressure lately and played so well that this should be not too much of a puzzle for Rahm.
Well, we haven't talked, obviously, until today, but that was my pick too. In fact, I told him at breakfast this morning that he was my pick. And he said, don't tell me. And I said, mate, this course is perfect for you. Yeah. You're shallow. You hit the ball up in the air. You control your distances. You're a beautiful bunker player and you're a straight driver. It's perfect.
Yeah.
I think Rahm might be favorite.
Okay.
Rory's favorite at 6-1. I think Rahm's second at 9-1. I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Two of the best players in the world. Whatever happens, it's going to be a blast.
Well, you'll of course have the reason that it's going to be a blast. You've done an amazing job down there, and thank you for coming on today. It's been great to catch up with you as always. I texted you yesterday just wishing you the best because I know how busy you are, and I know how much you're yelling at all your employees to keep in line down there because I know how you like it. So listen, mate, you have a great week. We'll be watching on telly. For those that are going to tune in this week, they're going to see a golf course that's a little different than they see all season on tour. And the reason is the way it was designed and the way they keep it. And you explained it well today, Bruce. Thanks for that.
I know.
Thanks for having me on. It's like Caddyshack. So, just for the record, I never yell.
I know. Scottish people, come on.
We're not Australian. All right. Thanks, guys.
You have a great day.
See you, mate.